Good night and welcome to Mindful Live 110. I am your host, Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It is the 19th of July. The year is speeding away with us. And I have good vested interests as this year speeds on for those who may be in multiple lives. Well, I am currently streaming over on TikTok and also streaming on Facebook and also streaming on YouTube. We're multi-streaming over here, multicast. And if you're looking at it over on TikTok or Facebook, feel free to head over to YouTube and do subscribe to the channel there, Nathan Springer over on YouTube. It does help. It has more, all of the lives. We're on live 110 right now, so bear in mind there would be 109 others, and you can head over to YouTube and see what we speak about there. And there are other videos also that I usually drop, not every day, but as often as I can. The topic for tonight is the Venezuelan migrants that were rescued from no kidnappers. There were no kidnappers apparently. They were rescued, no kidnappers were found. They were rescued, they were there performing acts against their will, and the people they were performing the acts on weren't there either. Surprising. They were captives but being paid 200 to 300 a day. Deepak Mohan, we're going to get into this story. Deepak, I see you have paid attention to some of the story. Them captives get yeah. We'll get into this story. Do not, you see, this is where people get upset with the victim blaming business. Before we get into this story, let's not try to cast aspersions as to as to the innocence or not of them. And I am not sure if Beauty Cupid is suggesting this isn't a good topic. I don't know. Well, I choose the topic. I mean, sorry if you don't like it. But also, I think this is a very important topic. I think this is crucial because this isn't just about Venezuelan migrants. This is about children. Oh, thank you. Good. This is about children, underage people, underage girls. And these are regular members of our society. Good night, Ria. Touchdown, place, bust down. Well done. Yes, these are quote-unquote regular upstanding members of our society. Somebody's daddy, somebody's uncle, somebody's boss, somebody's manager, somebody's worker. They're going there and abusing, assaulting underage girls on a nightly basis. This is horrific. And to think that these things occur continually in Trinidad and Tobago in normal houses inside of upscale areas is really horrific. All right, if you're viewing this anyway, you're viewing this, double tap the screen, hit the like button. However you decide to hit that like button, please do smash the like button, tap it, touch it, whatever you like. Make sure it's selected, make sure it feels your presence because it does help with the algorithm. So hit that like button, please, and thank you. And we're going to get into some of the stories that go through this storyline as it unfolds. That goes through this unfolding storyline. Police activists free Venezuelan girls from prostitution ring. And this was from an article from yesterday. 2 Venezuelan girls who said they were part of a group, which included 12 others, were rescued after Venezuelan activist Yesenia Gonzalez reached out to the TTPS for help on the weekend after assisting the teen girls aged 16 and 17, one of whom had been kidnapped 6 months ago. Gonzalez was able to effect the rescue around 4 a.m. on Saturday in a bushy area in Cunupia, where the girls were found half naked and barefoot. As we go on with this story, I notice as each story unfolds, they get more general with the location. I feel like I heard a specific road first, and then they reached to Kunupe, and then I saw an article talking about in central Trinidad. They just keep getting more vague and more generalized with where this house was located. To me, if it's a house, that's already something that is pretty easy to solve. Who owns the house? Anyway, I believe it was an apartment building, but who rents the apartment? Isn't your name on a contract somewhere? The 16-year-old bore bruises about the body as she was beaten by her handler, who is from the Dominican Republic. She also claimed to have been raped multiple times daily during her 6 months in captivity. Wow. The 17-year-old also came to Trinidad 6 months ago with the younger one and managed to avoid a similar fate. After escaping her captors, she was able to make contact with people she knew locally who helped her, but she kept searching for the other girl who was being abused and trafficked. Now, I want to get into the actual story as related by the migrant herself, because she puts in what? Because she puts in some more details into this story. Only because it's migrants involved, you want to talk about it by as much. I have no idea. I legitimately find that funny, Beauty Cupid, because I have no idea where the thought of me being biased towards Venezuelan migrants comes in. Like, is that the general topic of all my lives? I always focus on, okay. But to each their own. You know, I understand. I understand that there is friction between the Venezuelan migrants and Trinidad and Tobago. I understand there's friction between the males in Trinidad and Tobago and some of the Venezuelan females. There's friction between the Venezuelan females and the Trinidadian females too. I would always recall this. I will never forget this. When a businessman wives created an association down in the Southlands, they created an association and were contacting the news and the media and the police and the authorities. You must do something about the influx of the female Venezuelans. They are destroying our homes. I don't know how many of you have that kind of memory, but I remember that well. That made news. Businessmen wise made an association to try to get something done about the Venezuelan women that they found were mashing up their good home. So I understand friction between that tent and Utica. Well, water has a way of finding Mr. Hines. That's my apologies. The government has been conducting frauds. Good night, CC. Good night, good night, good night. Let me compose myself here. But I understand there has been friction. There has been friction going on there for some time. Now, as I read this article, I saw that there were some things that seemed a little discrepancy inside there. So we'll go through the storyline of the entire event, but let's see some of the discrepancies first. The two girls were escorted into marked and unmarked vehicles just after 3 p.m., etc., etc., etc. It is believed the girls were only paid TT $200 to $300 per week. Just by the way, it was per week, despite having to sleep with approximately 8 men per night. The girls claimed to have been captive at an apartment building in Cunupia, along with 12 other Venezuelan girls who had been put to work as prostitutes at a spa where older male clients would be able to secure their services from upwards of US $500 per night. $500 per night that the business is being paid. And these girls are reportedly being paid $200 to $300 per week. Good night, Elizabeth Natasha Surrett. Yes, it's been a while. Good night, Tony the Ambassador. Following the information received from the girls, the TTPS was expected to rescue the 12 others last night who were allegedly being forced to work off what they owed as sex workers. Now, I think this line actually helps elucidate some of this entire thing. Good night, Narish Ramesar. I think this line helps elucidate some. Who were allegedly being forced to work off what they owed as sex workers. What they owed. Who do they owe it to? How do they owe money? Well, I am not sure how all of the illegal migration goes in Trinidad and Tobago, but for example, in the United States, where there's some study being done on how their illegal immigration works, it is well known, hey, people over on YouTube, good night, Jamel, Jerome, what about underage girls being found and returned to family with no follow-up as to who they were with? Good point. Good night, Roni, over there on YouTube. Yes. But the arrangement generally in many of those illegal immigration services is you don't have the money to pay these criminals to transport you, to smuggle you into another country. You do not have those resources. That's not within your ability. However, what they will say is, we will transport you there on credit. We're transporting you there on credit, and once you get there, you will find a job and work and pay us back. And the thing is, many people will be fine with that. I'll go and find a job and pay you back. However, once you reach here, if you do not have something readily made for you, they will find a job for you to ensure that you pay them back. And the easiest, quickest job is from that oldest profession where they force women into in that context. Now, I think when you understand that, that word still exists. Yes, it does still exist. There are some shops that take credit, you know. Even some of those shops that say they don't take credit, they take credit from people they know. They just don't take credit from all the crooks because they don't pay back. Anyway, we're going to the actual rundown of the story coming from one of the victims themselves. And I think this gives a nice insight into how this entire operation worked and into some of the negatives and how they were caught in this. Migrants vowed to get justice from after rescue from slavery. After the rescue of 7 Venezuelan nationals who were reportedly kidnapped and forced into prostitution, one of the victims is breaking her silence about the ordeal and what her experiences have been like since coming to this country, seeking a better life. Speaking from his safe house yesterday, the young woman requested anonymity. Of course, the two girls first met. So we're going back to the beginning of this story. The repayment never ends. That is correct, Nappy. Here, Barbie, back up. That is correct. That's the nature of the system. It's like, it's the same criminals. So many of those drug dealers and the pipers, they run the same arrangement. The piper would pay them on credit, but the credit never is paid off. Loan sharks with some people who don't have the discipline for money or who find themselves in difficult positions, loan sharks do the same thing. The interest is always right outside of your reach. You can never actually pay it off. So they give you the $200 to $300 per week, and they tell you, well, that's your money to survive. We're taking the rest as payment, but the amount they're getting in payment will never actually catch up to the interest. It's an evil thing. So we're going back to the beginning of this story. You nearly made Jamie Ford over on Facebook. You nearly made me swallow my hot coffee too fast. Someone over on Facebook said they called a name. the finance aisle. They said a certain financial institute that names themselves after a piece of land, a body of land surrounded by water. That financial institute, allegedly, according to someone over on Facebook, functions very similar to that. You're never going to catch up with the interest. I don't know. I have never dealt with that institution. That is hearsay. I don't know that for sure. Ainsley, my question is, what is the Venezuelan embassy ambassador saying? Not a word. Well, Venezuela is in a lot of problems. Venezuela is in a lot of trouble. So if the Venezuelan embassy and authorities were able to see about all of their nationals in the first place, then they wouldn't be here. Tony, the ambassador, says that's the downside of illegal migration. People get exploited if they don't have money. Correct. Yes, that's correct. Get a loan that's hassle-free. But I've heard from multiple people that the loans are anything but hassle-free. I don't know though. Don't put my word out there. I don't know that. So the two girls met as they waited to board a pirogue at Tucupita back in February. As someone pointed out, this is the problem with illegal migration in the first place. It puts you in a very vulnerable place, and especially for females, for women, being placed in that vulnerable place is really scary. All right. Bonding on the treacherous journey, the two landed wow as good friends. So nothing like a treacherous journey across the Caribbean Sea from Tucupita to our border. Well, is that the Caribbean Sea you would be crossing there, or is that the Columbus Channel? All right. Where's Tucupita? They're coming from Tucupita, which is right there. Yeah, that's the Columbus Channel into the Gulf. So, nothing like a Columbus Channel into the Gulf journey for you to bond. And they bonded over the journey, bonding on the treacherous journey. The two landed as good friends on a beach in Mon Diablo Penal. However, while the 19-year-old had an address to head to, the 17-year-old was without any family or friends in Trinidad, revealing the 17-year-old was taken along with several other girls on a bus from the location. The older girl said that was the last time she saw her friend. That is it right there. That is it right there. You see, she had contacts in Trinidad and Tobago. Very likely she may not have mentioned that, but her contacts in Trinidad and Tobago may have already paid for her journey across. So they already collected the money for your journey. You reach and they tell you, okay, you're in Trinidad soil, you go about your business. But this girl had nobody in Trinidad. She was going there to pave the way. She was the trailblazer. Maybe she was going to try and make the way for the other members, of her family to come across. Maybe that was her intention. I agree Venezuela is in trouble, but why are you in my country? Then leave and save your citizens. Okay, they believe they cannot help in that situation, so they are running for asylum. That is possible. It happens sometimes. But yeah, the poor always suffering. To some extent, that's true, Yasin, because the people who have less resources are the people who are going to be taken more advantage of. She was probably coming here to try and blaze a trail to bring across her family. However, she had no one here to help her out. So the older girl with family over here to help her, she went to that family. This girl disappeared on a bus with several other girls. Reconnecting on Facebook less than 1 month ago, the 19-year-old was horrified to learn just what sort of work the girl had been forced into. So they reconnected on Facebook. That's where they met each other again. Now, I may be a little curious as to how someone is in captivity and has free use of Facebook, but neither do I want to give advice to the dirty human traffickers out there. By all means, let all of your victims onto Facebook and let them contact their friends. You evil psychopaths. But yes, she was a captive, but she had Facebook access and she spoke to her friend. And she related to her friend the situation as it was unfolding to her. Arriving at the spa, now listen, this friend is a hero. Because the friend reconnected with her. Bear in mind, they met in Tucupita right before their journey. That was the first time they met. That was the first time they met. And across the journey, that's when they were friends. They reconnected on Facebook. Homegirl decided she's going to mount a one-woman rescue team. She used her 200 to buy a cell phone and internet. Well, how did she buy it? Where did she buy it from? Maybe one of the clients gave it to her. I don't know. Arriving at the spa, hoping to rescue her friend, the 19-year-old said she was taken by two men of East Indian descent who were operating the outfit and locked in a room that contained CCTV cameras from where she was able to see all the sexual transactions taking place. So, I'm not getting into that with you all over there on TikTok. At least not tonight. So, she went to mount a rescue and, well, that probably wasn't well advised because, unsurprisingly, the men who kidnapped her friend kidnapped her too. I mean, I rate her courage, and it was her courage that got all of them rescued in the long run. So I rate it. But that one woman rescue, well, I think that was doomed anyway. She was caught, placed inside a room, and that's kind of evil though. That's some malevolent men. They caught her and they placed her in a room that had camera footage of all of the activities taking place in this building. That's the room they placed her in, so she could see what is going to happen to her. That is some evil stuff. Straight up evil. As someone is saying over on Jamie Ford, over on Facebook, Jamie Ford is saying, there is footage of this. That's the next part in this. What that seems to suggest is there was footage. And not only was there footage, but there was footage on the premises. Bear in mind, the police raided the premises. Did the police get that footage perchance? Or did the footage disappear? I wonder if there were any officers on that footage too. She spoke of monies being paid to the girls who in turn handed it over to the men. Translating the responses of the 19-year-old Venezuelan activist Yesenia Gonzalez related, they have 2 Trinidadian men there and they will give the money to the 2 Trinidadian men. Gonzalez said of the 19-year-old, she feels she is brave and she has courage and she's not afraid. And she knew they were prostituting her friend there and all of that. And she went there to see what was really happening and the condition she was in. Having narrowly escaped a similar fate 6 months ago, the rescued woman said she was motivated to look out for the other girl due to her age and lack of family ties locally. So she bonded with this girl. She was feeling for the girl, especially knowing that this girl was a younger girl than her. Knowing this was a little girl and what she was going through, she felt that she was compelled to do it. I could kind of understand that reasoning, to be very honest. I could understand that reasoning. Or the footage was deleted by mistake trying to disconnect it. I don't know if that's fact, but I will not be surprised if that's the message, because we're going to get to some of that kind of talk. Pressed to say how they escaped from the apartment during the wee hours last Saturday, Gonzalez said the girls waited for an opportune moment before running outside and hiding in a nearby canal that had been filled with water. You know what this seems to show? The young lady, the 19-year-old who went there. The fact that she went there with that newfound courage was what allowed them to launch this escape. Because she didn't take very long before she escaped. What was stopping everyone before? This isn't a criticism of them. This is just pointing out the realities of such situations. Because after you are captive for a while, your resolve could be broken to some extent. And to me, the fact that once the 19-year-old was able to get in there, they were able to launch that escape, says that some of it was resolve being broken. And I don't doubt that the whole sit down inside of the CCTV room and watch everything going on the cameras, I don't doubt that the purpose of that was to attempt to break her resolve. Thank God her resolve wasn't broken. She waited for the opportune moment and split out with her friend. The 19-year-old contacted her relative, who in turn reached out to Gonzalez for help in rescuing the 2 girls. Following this, the TTPS became involved, and acting on information, a raid was carried out at the apartment in Monroe Road, from where 5 other Venezuelan nationals were rescued during the wee hours on Monday. While the rescued woman wants to remain in TNT and is willing to cooperate with the authorities, Gonzalez said the situation has been worsening for migrants coming in. Now, they have more spas. In addition, she said car washes have become a popular cover for such activities. Gonzalez said the role that I am playing is basically to save their lives. I mean, I want to save them. Wow. And to me, when I look at how that is done, You know, this is not the first time that happened. Yes, yes, yes. I know this is not the first time it happened. I know that. But that doesn't make it any less crazy. I remember when the ring was shut down with some Chinese nationals not too long ago. I remember that. So it's a well known thing. Now, to consider that, as someone pointed out, this would be in a community. So the neighbors would know what's going on. The neighbors would know what's going on. One of the victims said 8 men per day. If if each kidnapped victim is servicing 8 men, is being raped by 8 men per day, and there are multiple Venezuelan women there, how many men do you think go in and out of that building on a given day? Now, so many men in and out, so many women under captivity, in captivity. There's no way that building didn't have someone else but the victims very nearby or inside. All the police had to do was wait 5 minutes and they'd have caught at least one person. I don't get it. Yes, the spa and where they were kept was the same place. Where they were kept and the quote unquote spa was the same place. It seems to me very obvious, like this seems to have some police involvement. And the truth is, while Yesenia may be on some of these victims' side, some of the criminals seeking to do them harm are some of their own people too. No bail for Venezuelan woman charged with child trafficking. This is from July 15th, right the other day. A Venezuelan woman charged with gang and human trafficking offenses was denied bail when she appeared before an Arima magistrate to answer to several charges. The accused was one of 5 individuals arrested by a team of officers in Arima on June 4th in connection with an alleged human trafficking and child prostitution ring. A Venezuelan woman. A Venezuelan woman. So it's involved. Hey, Nisiri Chin. It's involving people from all over. From all over. That's something that makes it a bit more difficult to solve too. But this entire thing, the way how these women were held captive, but they were held captive by no one. No one was there holding them captive, apparently. The way how these women were being forced to be assaulted by 8 men per day. But there were none of these men when the raid was occurring. The way all of those things happen in this case, I can't help but be reminded of the whole Epstein case. This whole thing, it does echo memories of the Epstein case. I don't know how many of you, yes, I have my criticisms of Yesenia herself too. I don't know how many of you were familiar with the Epstein case in the United States. It's really a global case. A billionaire, one Mr. Jeffrey Epstein, a billionaire, high flying around the world for decades. No one really understood how he got his billions. He had a whole private island. The truth is, he was widely known to be involved in a child prostitution ring with very high profile wealthy people around the world, including a prince in England, allegedly the founder and, well, the owner of Victoria's Secret, etc., etc., etc. So he had all of that going on for years. One Mr. William Clinton, who was the president of the United States back in the 90s, he allegedly flew on Mr. Jeffrey Epstein's private jet 27 times back and forth to his private island. His jet was called Lolita Express. Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with certain aspects of history, but Lolita, I believe, refers to a film. If you are in the mood to be upset, you can go look at what the film Lolita was about, suffice to say, it was in line with his child business. Flew back and forth. Back and forth, it was widely known. He was arrested for this before. Placed in jail, and in jail he was given a special concession to actually not really be in jail. That happened. It was widely known. The people all around were rubbing shoulders with this man, and it was known the kind of creep he was. Eventually, after some breaking stories come out and people keep pushing, some reporters from the low levels keep pushing, and then the horror stories keep adding up. All right, they have to do something about him now because victims are starting to come forward. Victims are starting to come forward, so they have to do something about him now. They arrest him. Now, from the moment he was arrested, people started clamoring because he is a man, he kept accounts. Mr. Jeffrey Epstein, a famed child trafficker in the world, he kept accounts of all the people he had business dealings with. So people were wanting to know, okay, if he is going down, they feel he is going to start to call names of these monsters around the world, and almost surely there would be global leaders among those names too. So people are very interested to find out those names. Now he's in prison there. Next thing you know, he's on suicide watch. Well, self-harm watch. I know some of these platforms are very sensitive about it. So he's on self-harm watch because they don't want him to off himself. He had not only pictures, he had video. He had names, times, dates, payments, etc. It was well recorded. Now, the man is on watch because allegedly there is rumor that he wants to, out his own lights. They put him in a specialty anti-self-harm cell where the sheets are made of a kind of paper. There's no metal. There's nothing you can harm yourself with. He has a cellmate there with him. He has constant 24-hour guard protection. There are cameras surrounding the cells. Then, one night, his cellmate, I believe, is transferred out. For some weird reason, his cellmate leaves or falls asleep. All the guards fall asleep suddenly. All of them fall asleep. All the cameras surrounding his cell suddenly stop working. And then this man outs his own lights. Would you believe it? He out his own lights while being on not out your own lights watch. How on earth? That's why the hashtag Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself is a very popular thing all over the world. Justice is served. I disagree, Ainsley. Justice is not served because although he died, one, he already lived a long life of depravity, and the people who he assisted in doing their depravity also did not come to justice. So by him dying, that was a travesty of justice actually. But there was hope. Hope was alive because he had a right-hand helper, his confidant, his woman, his maybe girlfriend, but who knows, because he was a man interfering with children too. So who knows what she really was, but she was basically the administrator for the entire thing. She was the administrator for the entire thing. She had all the information. So we didn't need Epstein actually. We were still going to find the information. First off, Maxwell goes on a run. Maxwell is on a run and she's taking pictures all around the world and she's on a run. Then eventually they catch her, right? They catch her. Great. Nice. They finally catch this lady. We're going to get answers. Her case is called. The case is done privately. No cameras in there, please. You could watch Johnny Depp and Amber Heard because the case was going on simultaneously. You could watch Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, but no. You cannot watch what is going on with this woman who trafficked children across the entire world to global leaders. No. You cannot watch that. You cannot watch that. Okay. when certain evidence was going to be released that may have come out to show some people in certain culpability, the judge in the case, the judge sealed the evidence. Only the lawyers and the judge could see that, and well, yes, the judge could see that evidence because it was too, what was the word she used? Inflammatory or something like that. It was too inflammatory an evidence to reach out to the public. By the way, I think this judge was appointed by Bill Clinton. You know, these things just happen to be coincidences, just happen to be coincidences, you know? Now, Maxwell has been sentenced. Her case is finished. She has been sentenced to 20 years in prison for trafficking children. She has trafficked children to no one apparently. Her case is finished. They already sentenced her. And no one in the world is any wiser about any of the other clients inside of it. No one knows. Who are the clients? Where's the black book? Where are the videotapes? Allegedly, there are hundreds of video cassettes out there. Videotapes. Maybe it's all digital by now. Imagine that. But no, we can't find this out. Tell me, how do you arrest a woman, prosecute her, send her to prison for trafficking children, but none of the people she trafficked children to go to jail? How does that make sense? That reminds, this case is a sensitive one, but it's old enough in Trinidad history for it not to be that sensitive anymore. There was a case a while back. I know some of you in TikTok, you're on TikTok in the live chat. I know you all have good memories. There was a case a while back in Trinidad and Tobago. A doctor, a high-flying doctor, well known. Yes, there are many lists out there, Nappy here, Barbie back up. There are many lists, but none of them are going to get anyone prosecuted. They have the prince's name, they have Bill Clinton's name, they have many names, they have the manifest for is Lolita Express airplane. They know who was on the plane, but still nothing is coming out of this. Anyway, a story way back in Trinidad and Tobago, a high-flying doctor, well-connected, well-known guy. His wife was tragically murdered. Very unfortunate thing. Now, eventually, they found the murderer and he confessed. But he was a murderer for hire. He was a killer for hire. You know, he's paid to kill someone. So, the guy that killed the lady, he confessed he killed the lady. They took his conviction and found him guilty of that murder. He's a murderer, convicted. Him says it was the doctor, her husband, who paid me to kill her. He is the killer. He is a killer for hire. He doesn't know the woman. He isn't the woman's friend. He has no reason to kill the woman. He was paid. He says, that's the man who paid me. Nothing. The guy who was the killer for hire is guilty. The person who hired him is not guilty. It's just how those things go at that kind of level. Just how those things go at that kind of level. They executed, we just have to watch the movie unfold, so the slow ones to understand has to take it. I don't know, I didn't fully get that, but okay. I don't know how many of you remember that case, but yeah, that was Trinidad and Tobago. That happened in Trinidad and Tobago. That case right there. So this thing where you rescue women from being captured in prostitution, but you can't find any of the captors and you can't find any of the men they were prostituted to. It's not even surprising, to be honest. Here, see, No evidence of him hiring him. Can you? It cannot be hearsay if it's my witness statement of what someone told me. My It did open an investigation. He was found innocent, I believe, in court. I believe it reached the court and he was found innocent. But that's not what hearsay is. Hearsay would be if someone said that the killer for hire told them that. I am the killer for hire. It was me. If you can take my confession of being a murderer and say that I pleaded guilty for something that I committed, you take my word at what I did. Why can't you take my same word for the same thing that I said I did on who paid me to do it? That's not hearsay. That is a witness statement. That is literally a witness statement, not hearsay. I am telling you what I witnessed. I went to the man's home. He told me his wife will be in XYZ place. He told me how to find her. He told me when to find her. He told me when to do it. He paid me by cash. He paid me on X date. I did this and this with the cash. You can see evidence of me spending the cash here and here. The only thing I do not have is a receipt there, sir, because you would understand, us assassins, we don't take receipts generally. Well, obviously, it was said that he couldn't prove it now. Obviously, that's what was said. But witness statements have been the linchpin for many cases. Why was his confession of murder enough to convict him of murder, but his confession of who paid him to do the murder not enough to take his word at it? I find that suspicious. I understand how the legal system works, and if you are wealthy, you could pay enough lawyers to make anything seem like you're innocent. I understand that. It's not that I don't understand how it happened. It's not that I don't understand in our legal system how it happened, but that's the whole point. These things happen. Similarly, I understand why Miss Maxwell's clients cannot be arrested. I could understand that. They could say plausible deniability. Just because Miss Maxwell wrote my name in a paper doesn't prove I did anything. Mr. Bill Clinton. Oh, by the way, it wasn't only Mr. Bill Clinton. It was Mr. Bill Gates too. Just by the way. Mr. Gates too, he was on the plane. Just by the way. But they could both say, we just took a lift. We wanted a ride, and we just got a ride. We didn't do anything. I didn't see anything strange going on. And that's what Bill Gates says when he's questioned about it. He says, I found he was a weird man and all of that, but I didn't really know anything going on. Right, sure. And I'm sure his lawyers could reach into court to kind of prove that, but we understand. In those things, what I would like is some leveling of the playing field. And as I regularly see on many of my lives, I am a believer in self-defense. And I believe whatever the criminals have access to, I should be able to legally defend myself against them with it. I have said that numerous times. I despise the idea that I can be in my home, my castle, and men can run in knowing that I can do nothing to them because I have nothing in my possession. They're the only ones with the boomsticks. I don't have any. But we saw different today. And today, I think we saw a prime example of what I think should be the legal standard in a country like ours, in nearly any free country. I believe as long as someone is an upright citizen, they should have access to a firearm. 6 men storm businessman's home. 2 die. if that businessman didn't, oh, I did see that movie actually. If that businessman did not have a firearm, how do you think this story would have ended? An El Socorro businessman opened fire on a gang of thieves as they attempted to enter his home on Tuesday morning. 2 of the intruders were shot dead, 1 wounded, 1 arrested, and 2 escaped. The businessman owns a hardware located on the same compound as his home at Don Miguel Road Extension. Police said the man was asleep when he heard a banging sound downstairs at around 4 a.m. He checked his surveillance cameras and observed 6 men attempting to enter his home. Police said the businessman armed himself with a licensed firearm and confronted the men, firing several shots. Officers from the Barataria CID and the Interagency Task Force responded and found 3 men lying on the floor. 2 were pronounced dead at the scene. A 3rd man was taken to the Port of Spain General Hospital in serious condition. Police held a 4th suspect as he attempted to run away from the scene. 2 others escaped. 6 of them? Yes, 6 of them. According to the police, there were 3 cars involved. If he was not armed, as someone said, he may have very likely been in Clark and Batus. Very, very likely. It happened on Tuesday morning around 4 a.m. according to this Express article. And I think that is the right of every person. Every person, when they hear a group of men rattling their outside gate at 3 o'clock in the morning, should be able to mount a serious defense. I think that should be a given. That should be a given. But in Trinidad and Tobago, that's one of the reasons. You know, those of you who are in the live regularly know I have a running problem with the batch mentality in the police. And that batch mentality when it reaches to the top. When I hear career police officers speak, they speak as though they don't believe that citizens should be able to be armed. When I hear people like the commissioner and those high-up officers, the strong man over on TV that has an excuse for every police action, when I hear people like them speak, they speak like they do not believe that citizens should have a right to defend themselves. I disagree with that. First off, I think it's your own responsibility to defend yourself and your family primarily. It's your responsibility. But if we are in a country that we say, okay, we are going to put off that responsibility, we are going to pay some people to take over that responsibility, the police, that's their responsibility now. If we are to do that, then the police have to be extremely good at doing that. There must be like 1 murder by gun per year. Then I'll be like, okay, it makes sense. I don't need to own a gun because the police are seeing about that kind of business. But if the police are not, how could you then tell me that, you know what, you shouldn't own a firearm, but I am neither going to protect you and the criminals are still going to get you. But nope, you still don't get a firearm. What? How does that make sense? And this present government put a halt on the firearm users' licenses because they got into some friction with the last commissioner back when Double G was in place. Now, I am not saying that all the actions inside of the firearm user licenses department was above board. Also, I went through... I urge some of you to go through my lives if you are so interested. I went through the entire firearm user licenses report. I went through it and we went through the discrepancies. We went through how certain things didn't make sense, how they were releasing sensitive information that would allow some criminals to cover their tracks before they were able to launch an investigation. The whole thing reeked of not actually being there to solve a problem. It seems to me, I don't know, it seems to me like that whole firearm user licenses bacchanal was part of the ruse to get rid of Double G. Now, as I've said so many times, it's not that I'm particularly a Double G fan, but I just like to be honest about it. It seems like they didn't like Double G anymore, so they were looking to mount a good case against him, so they put in the firearm users business also. However, when you go through the report of the corruption inside of that department, it seems pretty obvious the corruption did not start with Double G. The department was just corrupt, and I am very interested to know when they're going to launch that same kind of investigation into the licensing department, into the traffic department. Launch the investigation into every department. Don't just keep it at the firearm user licenses department. It's just so strange and interesting. If I cannot get a gun, I will be walking with an ice pick. Okay. Okay. They are saying you have to have a business to get an FUL. That's what they say, but that's not actually what the law is supposed to be. And Double G was going against that. Well, at least in his word, he was saying that he believes, his standard was he believes every citizen, as long as you qualify, should be able to get a firearm. That was his belief. And he was going through fast tracking some of those things. And some of that was the reason he got extra attention on him. And they used that as part of the whole thing to get rid of him. Well, that was part of the bacchanal back then. That was part of the bacchanal back then. But the bacchanal isn't ended yet. Lala tells PSC, don't use FUL report during Griffith's application. Attorney Larry Lala has written to the Police Service Commission asking that they do not take a report into the issuance of firearm users' licenses into account when considering Gary Griffith's application to become this country's next police commissioner. You see, they have that report in hand, and the report attempts to implicate Mr. Griffith. But this Larry Lala is Mr. Griffith's lawyer, and he is saying that you cannot use that report. And there are reasons. This report, which is littered with inaccuracies, false allegations, half-backed conclusions, dangerous hearsay, and naked untruths, was leaked to the media, Lala stated. Because of this, Lala wrote to the PSC to obtain its confirmation that your commission will not take the contents of said report into account in considering and treating with Mr. Griffith's said application, or should your commission decide to use the said report in considering and treating with Griffith's said application, that he would be first provided with a copy of the report and be allowed a reasonable opportunity to consider the contents of same prior to receiving any questions your commission may have in the contents of the said report. Okay, so what his lawyer is saying there is, do not use the report when you're looking at who is to be the next commissioner. If you are going to use the report, then you have to provide Mr. Griffith with a copy of the report so he can go through it and then answer your questions. Nappy here says the real constitution gives you that right, but the government using their fraud constitution. Up to now, he ain't get a copy of the report. Exactly. And the truth is, say what you want about the guy, in our legal system, you are supposed to be able to know what you are being accused of. If you are being punished for something, you cannot get a job because of something. You cannot just do that without giving somebody the proper reasoning behind it. That's how this thing works. That's how this system works. And you have to give them an opportunity to answer the allegations against them. Jamel Jerome says the FUL application form has the section for business name to be added. If the form is not reformed, then it will remain as is. But I remember back when Griffith was there, he was saying also that you didn't need a business necessarily to get a license. That, to me, the story in El Socorro, I don't want to say it's a happy ending, because I don't believe in celebrating death. I don't believe in that. Even if it's bad people, I don't believe in celebrating death. But I think that's a better ending than the homeowner dying. And I think that ending is only made possible by allowing citizens the right to protect themselves. The PM says so, and it is so. Lol, shaking my head. Trinidad. Yep. Anyway, that's all I have for now, folks. Any comments or questions before we dive out? I went and do one thing, come back, and I'm ready to dive out. But you went for a while. You went for a while. This live has been running for over an hour. So, was no quick one thing and come back. We, the people, have them still there terrorizing us, Kevin. I feel we need to have a discussion, though, about that meetup, Rhea. You all need to actually be in the live. You all need to actually be in the live, and then we'd have a discussion about it. Protect ourselves and our children. Thoughts on the announcement the digital chairman made on the campaign for slavery reparations. I did not see that. I do not want to comment on something I didn't see. But talking about reparations, we're going to get into that. I'll go read up that and see what it's about. I don't know what that was talking about, but to me, reparations is kind of as far as slavery reparations go, I let me put it this way: I don't understand how something like that would function logically. I don't understand how it would reasonably function. How do you do something like that? Where does the money come from? Who does the money go to? I just don't understand how you're going to accurately implement slavery reparations from over 100 years back, when there was intermixing between slaves, between slave masters. Some of it would have been with consent, some of it would have been without consent, etc. How do you then decide who gets what? I don't know. A plan was announced, not a campaign. I'll read up on that. That's news to me. I didn't hear that. Been so busy these days. Blessed night, bro. Stay safe, all. Thank you, sir. All right. Don't take any reparation. Get the crest via trust. I don't know what you're talking about, Nappy here. What crest via trust is that? Or Cresty. I agree. Did you sell again? Ha. All right. All right, folks. All right, folks. Let me look to go there. The reparation was given to the slave owners and they never paid it. I want reparations from these governments. Not that I am against reparations in and of itself, but I think for reparations to really be effective, they need to happen pretty quick. They need to happen pretty quick. So, Germany, I believe, gave some reparations to the Jews. The US, I believe, gave some reparations to the Japanese Americans that they put in internment camps during World War II. When it's close, it's easier to happen. But hundreds of years ago, good luck doing that. The plan is for a fund to support the Caribbean countries in different sectors like agriculture. That's what I've heard. I have heard that announced as reparations, meaning basically that they're going to help out the countries where many of the descendants are. So reparations from Britain to the slaves could look something like a fund that Britain puts where they give some more money to the Caribbean. Nathan Springer is the one attached to your fiction's name. Okay. And the thing is, though, even with that style of reparations where they give money, usually they give some kind of grant or something to the less developed countries, very often those things come with caveats. They come with little hooks in it. You're getting this money, but you have to do something that we see. You're getting this money, but you have to implement this law just like us. You're getting this money, but you have to change that little bit of your culture there. If that's the case, keep your money. Allow our culture to progress at our own rate. Don't bring your quote-unquote progress from wherever you're coming from and attempt to force it on our country through help. That's what often happens. Tomorrow's questions. Do you love, hate, or respect your government? Ha 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 ha. Exactly. Can't see how that could go wrong. They're spending it to benefit themselves and certain people. They are planning your transfer back to Africa, but into a Tima camp. Okay. All right. I'll take your word on that one. All right, folks. That's all I have for now. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. Or FEMA. But isn't FEMA in the United States? Who knows? We'll talk some other time. See you guys tomorrow for the next Mindful Life starting around 9. So be around here for 9 and I'll be there for around 9 too. See you then. Peace.